Hey, welcome to Draft Academy. My name is Mike. In this lesson, we're going to talk about conditionals in Hugo. Conditionals are essentially just if-else statements, right? And an if-else statement allows you to control the execution flow of a program. Basically, it allows you to let the computer make decisions. And so when we're building layouts in our Hugo site, it's sometimes useful to allow the program to be able to do certain things when certain conditions are met. And that's the beauty of conditionals, is that they allow us to do that. And Hugo makes it really easy to use these conditionals inside of your templates. So before we get started, I just want to talk about my layout here. Up here on the content folder, I just have a collection of files, which basically just represents my website. And down here in the layouts folder, I have a empty list template and I have an empty single template. And these are the two templates that we're going to be using in this tutorial. So I'm just going to go into this single.html template. And inside this template, we can start using conditionals. So just to begin, I'm going to create two variables. I'm going to call this one var1, and we'll set this equal to dog. And I'm going to create var2, and we'll set this equal to cat. And just to sort of demonstrate how conditionals work, I can write out an if statement, and it's just like this: if, and then I need to put my operator and then the condition. So there's a bunch of different operators that you can use, and you're going to write them out in 2-character code. So you can do equal to, less than equal to, greater than equal to, and these are just the basic sort of operators that you can use. Or you can also use this not keyword, and the not keyword will negate any of these. And so in my case, let's just check to see if these two are equal. So I'll say if equal var1 and var2. And so what you'll notice is that, if you've ever programmed before, usually an if statement would be like, if x is equal to y or something. But in Hugo, you don't do it like that. So you put the operator before the two things that you're comparing. With an if statement, you have to include an end tag. So we're going to have an end just like that. And now whatever goes in here is what's going to get executed if this condition is true. Now you can also use something called else. And else is basically saying, like, if this isn't true, then use the code inside of here. And so in here, we'll just put true. And in here, we'll put false. And this will represent that if true shows up, we know that this condition was true. And if false shows up, we know that it wasn't. So let's save this file. And we'll head over to our browser. And I'm just going to pull up one of the single templates that I have. And what you'll notice is right here, we have false. And that makes sense, right? Because we're checking to see if var1 and var2 are equal to each other. And obviously, they're not. Let's see if we can get this to say true. One way to do that would be to negate this whole comparison. So I could say not, and then whatever I want to negate, I need to put inside parentheses. Now, the parentheses and the ordering of things is really important with if statements. Like, you could have the if statement so close, but be missing a parentheses or be missing a space somewhere, and it wouldn't work. So you want to make sure that everything is formatted correctly. And so since we're negating this, we should return true. And let's see if that is indeed true. And it is. So you can see here we return true because we negated this statement. Another thing we could do is get rid of this not. And obviously we could change this guy to dog, and then it's going to be true as well. So you can do a lot of other things with conditionals as well. I'm going to change up these variables, and I'm going to use numbers. And so we can do a similar thing with numbers. So I could say less than var1, var2. And so this would be read as if variable 1 is less than variable 2. And in this case, variable 1 is less than variable 2. So let me save this. And it should return true just like it does there. Instead of less than, I could say greater than or equal to. And now we should return false because it's not greater than or equal to. You can get pretty complex with your logic as well. If you're familiar with conditionals, then you're probably familiar with and and or statements. If you're not, basically an and an or allow us to compare two separate conditions. And so let's add in another variable here. We'll just call this variable 3. and we can set it equal to 3. So let's write a comparison that's going to tell us whether or not a certain variable is the highest or the lowest number. So I can say and whenever you do an and, you need 2 parentheses just like this, and you need a space in between them. So I can say variable 1, or I can say, sorry, less than variable 1 variable 2 and less than variable 1 variable 3. And so, you know, I'll say this out. It's basically if variable 1 is less than variable 2 and variable 1 is less than variable 3, then it's true. Otherwise, it's false. And so basically what this is checking to see is if variable 1 is the smallest variable. And we'll head over to our browser and you'll see that it's true because variable 1 is indeed the smallest. If we made this the largest, it wouldn't be. And so you can get really complex with these. And the thing with these conditionals is the more complex you get, like the harder it is to read. So, I mean, even just using an and, this is really hard to read. You can also substitute in an or just as easily for or logic. In an or statement, only one of these guys has to be true. In an and statement, both of these guys has to be true. That's the main difference. And so you can get, you know, even more complex with this, right? So inside of this less than, I could say not, so I can negate this whole thing and then add another parentheses. And I could also negate this whole thing if I wanted. Obviously that's redundant, but you get the point. Like you can add in all of these, you know, nots and ands and ors to make a complex if statement. You can also do something like this. So you can say else if, and then you can have another condition down here. And so you could have, you know, if something, else if something, and then, you know, you could keep going. You could have an else, or you could have another else if. It doesn't really matter. So, you know, this is basically how conditionals work. And like I said, you know, the more complex your conditional gets, the harder it is to read. And so you want to just keep that in mind. You know, this isn't super intuitive to read. So let's look at another practical application for conditionals. I'm just going to range through all the pages in the site. So this range function will basically iterate through every single page on the website. And inside of here, what I want to do is set the styling of an element conditionally. And so basically what I want to do is range through all the pages on the site, and I'm going to list them all out. And if we're on the current page, I want that link to be a different color. And so let me show you what we need to do. The first thing we need to do is create a variable up here, and we'll just call it title. And you're going to see why we have to do this in a second. And then down here, what I want to do is I want to make a list item with a link inside of it. And inside this link, we're just going to put the URL of the page, and we're going to put the dot title. So let's see what this looks like. We'll head over to our single template, and you can see that it basically just lists out all of the pages on the website and has links to all of them, right? So what I want to do is, when I'm on this E file, for example, I want E to be highlighted with a different color. If I'm on this D file, I want D to be highlighted with a different color. In other words, I want it to indicate what file we're currently looking at, right? This could be like a navigation menu. And the way we can do that is by using a conditional. And so I can have a style tag right here. And what we want to do is write a conditional statement inside this style tag. Basically what I want to say is if the page that we're currently iterating is the page that the user is currently viewing, then I want to apply certain styling to it. And so that's going to look something like this. I can say if equal to dot title, and then that title variable. Now, this is maybe a little bit confusing. So you might be asking, like, why did I create this title variable up here? And the reason is because up here, dot title represents the title of the current page, right? So dot title represents the title of the page that the user is viewing. However, down here, for example, right here, this dot title corresponds to the page that's currently being iterated over, right? So it's not necessarily the same as this. And that's why I need to store it in a variable, because down here, the scope has changed, right? The scope of .title has changed. So it could be the same as up here, but it could also be, any other page on the site that's getting iterated through. So this if statement is basically saying if the title that's currently being iterated through is the same as the title of the page that we're currently looking at, then we want to do something. And I'm just going to put an ending tag here. And what we want to do is just give this a background color, and we'll just say it's yellow, okay? Now let's go back to our browser, and we'll refresh the page, and you'll see that when I click on each page, it's highlighting the current page that I'm on. So right here, E is highlighted, and you can see up in the URL that we're on page E. C is highlighted, and we're on page C. B is highlighted, and we're on page B. So we're using the conditionals in combination with the range to put styling on the current element, right? So you could use this to build like a navigation menu. I mean, you could use it to do a lot of different things. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to Draft Academy to be the first to know when we release new content. Also, we're always looking to improve, so if you have any constructive criticism or questions or anything, leave a comment below. Finally, if you're enjoying Draft Academy and you want to help us grow, head over to draftacademy.com/contribute and invest in our future.